So those are our four things. Every
I
church, a
love that.
pathway to faith, every leader, a catalyst for evangelism, every Christian, a courageous witness, and every child, a chance to explore Jesus. Lord, may that be so.
Amen. Yes, indeed. Yeah. James, what? Well, hello and welcome to the Church Office podcast. My name is Gavin Smith, and it's a joy today to welcome you to our Admin and Ops podcast. We love talking about the work of ministry behind the scenes. We love talking about leadership. We love talking about churches and pastors and all the different roles and how it all works together behind the scenes. And we love getting guests on, and a special welcome to James Lawrence. Welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Thank you so much. Great to be here with you.
We're really looking forward to it. James is from CPAS and is a leadership champion, which we'll go into a little bit of detail. He can explain that to us as we get into it. And a real opportunity today just to really listen in and just to hear not only James's heart for the organization and what they're seeking to do, but an opportunity for us to link in and engage with some of the stuff that they've got going on. So super excited for you on the podcast today to hear this and to be part of this. Before we get underway, let me do a big shout out to Gavin at Church Suite and those who are working really hard on a brilliant database system. And if you've not come across this system before, it is fantastic. And Gavin and the team sponsor the podcast and have worked in partnership with us at the church office. We're really grateful for them. You need a good database. If you're in church administration or in church management, you need a good database. These guys are there to serve you. They've got a brilliant piece of kit. They've got loads of training and support that comes alongside it. I know thousands and thousands of churches that are using this. So please check it out at churchsuite.com. James, tell us a little bit about yourself. Yeah, tell us about you and your church, and let's get to know you first before we jump into the work.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I'm based here in the Midlands. So I'm speaking to you from a little sort of village called Covington, which is near Coventry in the middle of the country, where I work for the organisation CPAS. And I'll tell you a bit more about that in a moment. I've been a follower of Jesus since the age of 16.
Okay.
Wasn't brought up in a Christian family, but came to faith over a sort of a 3-year period, really, from about 13 to 16, and had all sorts of plans of what I wanted to do with my life. But I bizarrely found myself thinking, found myself sensing that maybe God wanted me to take ordination seriously. And before I knew it, I was in and out of university, in and out of vicar factory, and ordained at 23 years old.
Wow.
So, I always tell people I've never had a proper job, Gavin. So I've been ordained now for 38 years and involved in a variety of different churches. I currently work for CPAS in a sort of a traveling role around the country, exploring really the big three questions that church leaders are wrestling with. What does it mean to be church in the sort of world we find ourselves in today? Very different world to when I was ordained 30 years ago. In fact, we would argue a very different world 5 years ago.
Yes.
Things are changing so fast. What does it mean to be church in that sort of world? Secondly, how do we engage in mission in that way, in that world? How do we help people become disciples of Jesus Christ in particular? And then thirdly, given the answers to those questions, what's the sort of leadership that's required? And again, in the church that I'm a part of, which is Anglican, things have changed so much over the time I've been ordained. So my job is a teaching, researching, writing, thinking, training sort of role, helping church leaders think through those big three issues, both lay and ordained.
Yeah. What a privilege. Yeah, that's great. And 38 years of ministry is a big deal, isn't it? And you've lasted in that, and really looking forward to kind of firing some questions at you. And we've already kind of chatted before, haven't we, about kind of resilience and leadership behind the scenes and how leaders are feeling. And I love those three questions, and I love that approach. So really thrilled to do that. So tell us quickly, James, what does the CPAS stand for? What is a name? Fill us in.
Yeah, thank you. So CPAS actually stands for Church Pastoral Aid Society, although we tend not to use that because we were founded in 1836, so quite a long time ago. The joke is I've been there nearly that long. We were founded in 1836 at a time where the word pastoral meant something quite different to the word what it means today. So the backstory is we were founded during the Industrial Revolution when 70% of the population of England over an 80-year period moved from rural to massively growing urban and mainly poor. And the churches couldn't cope with the vast expanse of population growth that occurred during that period. So a guy called Shaftesbury, Lord Shaftesbury, got together with some of his wealthy chums and they created a fund. And the fund was to pay for lay and ordained workers to go into these growing areas, basically to take the gospel. The vision was the gospel to every person's door with a single eye to the glory of God, to take
Yeah.
the gospel to people in those communities and to plant churches. So in a sense, it was a early church planting movement in the Victorian era during the Industrial Revolution, particularly focused on poorer areas of the country, which
Okay.
is normally what these industrial areas
Yeah.
were. And that's still what we're about today, in the sense of the gospel to every person's door, to a single with a single eye to the glory of God. When lots of mission agencies were being established in 1836 to take the good news overseas, ours was established to take the good news to the people of this land.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's still our focus. We do very little overseas. We're UK and Ireland. That's where our work is. And it is predominantly within the Anglican Church, not exclusively, but
Yeah.
predominantly within the Anglican Church. We are technically an Anglican evangelical mission agency. That's our sort of descriptive title, as it were.
Yeah. I love that.
And we have three bits to our work at the moment. The work that I do with the team that I'm a part of, which is the sort of leadership development work. Secondly, we run holidays for children and young people, and we've been doing that for 100 years as well.
Wow.
We take about 3,000 kids away on holiday every year, not all at the same time, thankfully. About 70 holidays run by a group of 2,500 volunteers from around the
Wow.
country. And on those holidays, our aim is to give them a really great holiday, introduce them to Jesus so that they can become disciples of his. And if they are already disciples, to try and grow them in ministry and leadership skills.
Yeah.
And then the third area of our work is something which is a bit strange. And if you're not Anglican, you won't really get this, but every Anglican church has a patron
Okay.
who is responsible with the parish and the diocese for appointing the next clergy person, the next
Okay.
vicar to
Okay.
that church. Yeah. So believe it or not, back in the day when people no longer wanted these, they used to sell them off. And CPAS reckoned, well, gosh, if you got the opportunity to influence the appointment of a clergy
Yeah.
person, that's a very significant
Yeah.
influence that you can have over the life of that
Yeah.
church. Point gospel-hearted ministers. And so we now find ourselves, you can no longer buy them. That was an old thing. But we now, for a whole bunch of reasons, we find ourselves as the largest single patron in the country with over 700, just under 700 churches around the country that we're responsible for appointing incumbents to. All over the country, big churches, small churches, rural churches, urban churches, suburban churches,
Yeah.
every context you can
Yeah.
imagine, right the way through England.
You guys are busy.
Yeah, there's a
Wow,
fair
there is a
amount going
stack
on.
of work there.
Yeah,
Wow.
but all of those coalesce around this the gospel to every person's door.
Yeah.
Why do we want to
Yeah.
point clergy? We want clergy who are going to get the churches looking outward, not inward. Churches that
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
mission in their communities, about sharing the good news of Jesus.
Yeah.
Why do we have children and young people on holidays? Because we want them to come to know Jesus, and we
Yeah.
want to help resource the local church by giving them a place they can bring young
Yeah.
people. And so it's all focused on the local church, all about how we can help
Yeah.
people come to know Christ.
And just thinking about those kind of holidays for kids and just taking groups of young people away, you know, that's a hard thing to deliver in a local church, isn't it? Setting. But to actually partner with you and to be able to do that and to bring a whole bunch of young people together makes that kind of mission possible, doesn't it? Which is wonderful, because like there's one thing of doing a kind of local club in your church building for a few days, you know, in a summer break or a half-term break, but actually take some kids away on holiday. Kids don't forget that kind of kindness, do they? And that kind of opportunity. And that just sounds amazing.
Yeah, and so often those things can be transformative experiences.
Yeah.
Being with, particularly if you're a kid in a church with very few young people, to
Yeah.
come to a whole bunch of young people and discover, oh gosh, I'm not the only one.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be in a place where you've got predominantly, but not exclusively, young adults leading the holidays and therefore modeling something of the Christian life.
Yeah.
uh, you know, if I went along, they wouldn't see me as cool, but if a 20 something goes along, they see them as cool and want to be like them. So
Yeah.
there's that
Yeah.
whole modeling that
Yeah.
occurs.
Yeah.
There's the community that is developed and built. I mean, my three kids all went on these holidays when they were those ages, and they'd regularly come back and say, best week of the year,
Yeah.
can't wait to go back again.
Yeah.
So they are just great opportunities for local churches to get involved in something which makes it possible for them to do something they couldn't
Yes.
do on their own. And obviously, what we're offering centrally is all that sort of back office stuff that
Yeah.
you know very, very
Yeah.
well with your ministry, all that back office
Yeah.
safeguarding and
Yeah.
all the things that
All
need to
the
happen to
paperwork
make
and
it a
yeah.
safe and fun holiday.
Yeah.
We do a lot of that work
You
behind the
carry
scenes.
that work. Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, that's fantastic. That's great. I absolutely love that. Yeah. And is there a way for people to connect straight into that, James? Is that something just, just thinking of a church is listening and thinking, wow, I'm inspired by that. I'd love to kind of link up with that.
Yeah. There's,
Straightforward invitation.
yeah, so there's a number of ways. You can go to our website, cps.org.uk, and look for Ventures and Falcon Holidays on there, and that will take
Yeah.
you through to our Ventures and Falcon website. Secondly, if you want to volunteer, we're always looking
Yeah.
for folks who are up for being a part of it. Obviously, there's a bit of a process to go through,
Yeah, of
but
course.
nonetheless, we're always looking for volunteer cooks, volunteer leaders, a whole
Yeah.
range of different roles that people can
Yeah.
fulfill. And thirdly, if you've got children or grandchildren yourself or children in your church that would like to go on the holidays,
Yeah, brilliant.
then again, the website will give you all sorts of details. We've just finished our sort of summer season, so we're in the process of putting next year's season together. But
Yeah.
the sort of brochure normally comes out somewhere around the November period,
Okay.
and bookings open in December, so
Yeah.
people can find out what's happening next year then.
Do it straight away. That sounds great. And James, what I've loved and what we've connected over it, I'm inspired by your gospel heart, how the gospel just runs through everything that you guys are doing, whether you're working with leaders or kids or trying to serve churches. This gospel heartedness, this real desire to take the gospel out there and tell people the good news of Jesus. I love that. And how have you guys been able to kind of? I know you've got history of that, but how do you maintain that in your organization? What are you guys doing? Because that's lovely.
That's a great question, Gavin. I think the first thing we do is we recruit people who've got that heart
Yeah,
already.
yeah, good. Yeah,
And whilst there are other things we're going to be looking for in them as well,
mm,
that's sort of fairly central. So if I think about the team that I'm involved with and the folks on my team, there's not one of them who doesn't want to see people come to know Christ. And they may have specialisms in other areas,
yeah,
but the bit running through the rock
yeah,
is the same.
yeah,
Uh, so we often talk up internally about whilst I'm a leadership champion. Leadership for us is not the end goal.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
servant to a bigger goal, and
Yes,
the bigger goal is gospel ministry. It's
yes,
actually
yeah,
people, churches being shaped by the gospel, people coming to know Christ and being shaped by the gospel.
yeah,
In the words of the Lord's Prayer, "Thy kingdom come" is what we're praying, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah,
So leadership for us is a tool in the service of something bigger.
yeah,
And so we want to make sure we're employing people, although they may have leadership specialisms, they
yes,
need to be on board with that something bigger that we're looking to
yeah,
serve.
yeah,
So the first thing I think would be recruitment, and that's probably the single most important thing.
yes,
And then secondly, we try to to keep each other to account around our own personal engagement
okay,
with the showing and sharing of faith.
yeah, yeah,
Because it's very easy to become a professional in inverted commas
mhm,
out there telling everyone else about it, but
yes,
not necessarily
yeah,
doing it ourselves.
yeah,
So, just as an example, tonight I'm off to our inquirers course that we're starting tonight. 25 people coming along to find out about
brilliant,
Jesus, and I'm involved in that. I'm just a host on a table,
yeah,
looking to open up conversations with a bunch of people.
yeah,
I've invited a couple of folks along to it. Both of them have said no, as it happens. But then I always, when I'm teaching on this stuff, talk about the success is not getting person to the event. Success is
yeah,
issuing the invitation.
yeah, yeah,
So I'm
good,
having to
yeah,
model that myself
yeah, yeah,
and know
yeah,
the pain of not actually the person coming. And when I was hoping they
yeah,
would come, so we try and encourage each other. We try and pray for people we know who aren't yet followers of Jesus, that they
yeah,
may become followers of Jesus. So
yeah,
recruiting, modeling, and then the third thing I think we try and do is we we look for stories,
yeah,
good stories of
yeah,
stuff that's happening,
yeah,
and both encourage ourselves with those stories,
yeah,
but also try to encourage others with those
yeah,
stories. So one of the things you'll be aware of, Gavin, is whatever you make of the stats around the quiet revival at the
yeah,
moment,
Yeah.
something's definitely going on.
Yeah, definitely.
And so
Definitely.
part of what we're doing is finding some of those stories and telling some of those stories to encourage others, and then asking what might we do as a result of what might be going on to ensure that we're ready to welcome somebody who might rock up at our church on
Yeah.
Sunday. I mean, in my church at the moment, sorry, the church that I go to, we don't have a Sunday go by without somebody new turning up,
Yeah.
and they are mainly young adults.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the reality of where we find ourselves.
Yeah.
The guy on Sunday I got talking to, who was new for the first time, I asked him, "What's brought you here?" And he just looked at me absolutely dead straight and said, "The complete mess that the decisions I've made of my life have brought me to."
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he's there. And
Yeah.
obviously, there's a big
Yeah.
backstory, which I don't yet know the
Yeah.
story of.
Yeah.
But he's there, invited along to the course tonight. Hope he'll turn up. We'll see. Every week, somebody coming along.
Yeah.
So, those three things, I think, are three of the core
Yeah.
things: recruiting, um, trying to keep each other motivated in the doing of it.
Yeah.
And then, what are the stories that
Yeah.
encourage us and that we can share with others?
Yeah, I think that's great, James, and I'm got the same heart. Same for us, administration operations. We don't. Our heart is not just to make you more efficient, but how do we make you more gospel effective? How do we get the right structures in place and systems in place, and maybe even the right people in place that we release our leaders to be able to do this ministry that they've been called to do, but also, yeah, just how can we do that supports churches to be more effective. And you're right. It is kind of yeah, we love leadership, we love talking about these things, but actually we love the gospel more. And yeah, there's a sense of, all right, we've got some gifts, we've got some experience in this stuff. How can we help and serve people that it leads to that kind of effectiveness? Really, love the stuff that you're talking about, the quiet revival. We're the same, and I think we have the privilege, don't we, of being able to work with churches right across the country and to hear the stories. Same thing for us. We're getting 30-40 visitors a week, which is nuts. It's like a completely different. And last week our pastoral team and I were doing some work on kind of pathways into the church, and we were thinking, right, okay, well, in before people would come to some sort of, because of personal evangelism or an outreach course or an alpha course might be the starting point, but now the
Mm.
Sunday morning is the starting point.
Yeah.
And so the whole pathway of like what we
Yeah.
used to do has
Yeah.
completely, utterly
Yeah,
changed, doesn't
yeah,
it?
totally. I was just doing a session on this for
Fascinating.
somebody for a bunch of church leaders a couple of weeks ago, and I was saying, the stuff I taught 10 years ago, I can't teach
Yeah,
any longer.
yeah,
The
yeah,
whole scenario has changed so significantly,
yeah,
and actually, yeah, we have this. I also said, I said I've been ordained 38 years. I think this is as an exciting a time as I've had in 38 days, eight
yes,
years of ordained ministry.
yeah,
Because in many ways, to use an analogy from the Quiet Revival, for many of those 38 years, it has appeared the tide has been going out.
yeah,
And at
yes,
the moment, it appears the tide has turned.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
super excited about what's
yeah,
going on and
yeah,
just sort of in awe of the
yeah,
opportunities that we have at the moment. And we don't know how long this window will be open, to mix
yeah,
metaphors
yeah,
terribly. We
yeah.
don't know how long the window will be open, but let's make the most of it while it is.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And I love it. And it's challenging leaders in such brilliant ways. So the whole question of like, how do we disciple people who are coming for the first time on a Sunday, who've got no church background whatsoever, no understanding. Their parents weren't, believers. Their grandparents probably didn't attend any kind of chapel or church, and they're coming in fresh. So they're coming in hearing a message on Sunday, and our preachers have got to go away and go, how are we engaging with people like this? Just that one simple question, let alone all the other things that are going on. But how do we bring the word to bear and in an understandable way that new people can engage in it? And I love the fact that we're being challenged to think about it, and our normal discipleship programs are going out the window. We're having to rewrite stuff, and there's a life in this, isn't there? There's a buzz about this,
Yeah.
and you're right. We want churches to really kind of seize the opportunities that we've got,
Yeah.
because they're wonderful at the minute. Yeah.
Yeah, we were doing a webinar recently on, practically how do you as a church leader help your church be engaging well
Yeah.
at a very sort of ground level with this.
Yeah.
What do you say to your congregation about what to do on a Sunday morning now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because actually, if people are just rocking up, we need the whole congregation to be a part of this.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah,
just up to
yeah,
those of us who are in some form of paid ministry.
yeah,
Um, and 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 how do we? What does it mean for our courses that we might be running? How do we start further back and go further on, which is a
yeah,
part of what I think
yeah,
it means.
yeah,
So there's lots of stuff we're having to rethink,
yeah.
and that's great. That's great. Gets us buzzing.
It's great. And I keep saying to administrators, we did a conference in the summer, and I was like, this is going to get messy,
Mm,
it's going to change, so the pathways of, okay, you come on Sunday morning, and the question about kind of membership, or the question about what it means to belong, and
mm,
then the normal steps that people might take in filling out a GDPR form or something,
mm.
like they're it's going to get messy. People are showing up at our choir and we've never met them before. They just
Right.
want to come and engage
Yeah.
in community, and
Yeah.
they've heard there's a choir, and so there's a whole bunch of ways that people are engaging now with church, and it's kind of wonderful to see. So let me pick up a couple of questions then, James. On
Mm.
kind of, you're working with lots of leaders. You're delivering teaching every week in various different places. What are some of the challenges then that they're facing? What are some of the leadership challenges maybe
Mm.
that churches are facing?
Mm. Gosh, where to start?
Yeah,
Uh,
big question.
yeah. So, let me come at it from several different angles. One angle is, again, forgive me, the context I know best is the Anglican Church.
Yeah, yeah, fine.
But within our Anglican Church in the UK, there are lots of churches where there are some struggles around numbers of folks who are in sort of key leadership roles.
Okay.
When you're the vicar, not of one church, but of 10, that's a very different
Yeah,
situation. And over 70% of Anglican churches are now in multi-parish benefices where they're a vicar
yeah,
of more than one church.
yeah.
The largest one I've come across is 31 vicar, 34 churches.
Wow.
Yeah. Now that is unusual, but 10 is not
Yeah,
unusual these days.
yeah.
So you have to rethink your model of engagement
Yes.
because you
Yeah,
cannot be the vicar of one church in the same way that you need to be a vicar of 12 churches or 10 churches
yeah,
in the same way that you're a vicar of one church. You
yeah,
have to rethink.
yeah,
And there are some opportunities in that, but there are also some
yeah,
challenges in that.
yeah,
I particularly know that my generation, though, folks have been around 20, 30, 40 years as ordained people. I hear a number of them saying, gosh, the role that I'm now being asked to take is not the role that I was
okay,
trained for
okay,
or even felt called to.
yeah,
So there's some challenges
okay.
often for
That's
my
interesting.
generation. Younger ones maybe who are coming into that being their new norm, as it were, not
Yeah,
maybe quite so much of a challenge. So that's one thing. That's one reality that we're facing. Another challenge is um, I think every generation thinks it's it's tough. That's always a danger, isn't it? But
yeah,
there
it
are
is.
some things which have
Yeah.
just significantly changed. So I had a sabbatical last year, and
Mm,
on my sabbatical, I spent a bit of time just talking to clergy around the country
yeah,
with a bunch of particular questions that I wanted to ask. One of them that I asked of a bunch was, what percentage of your time do you think you're spending on administration?
yeah, yeah.
And I know what the National Church of England statistic is.
Hmm.
And I thought, I think it's probably a bit more than that.
Yeah,
I was absolutely shocked to discover
yeah,
how big that figure was.
yeah.
Um, and there wasn't a single clergy person I spoke to who was spending less than 50% of their time on
Yeah.
administration.
I remember when you shared that with me, I was shocked. Yeah. And then when you said it was actually higher
Yeah. For
again,
some, it's 80%. Yeah.
that's wild, isn't it?
Yeah. Now that's not just obviously personal administration, it's
No, no.
parochial administration as
Yeah,
well. And it does include things like fundraise, putting in
yeah,
an application for some sort of grant or whatever that might
yeah,
be. It does also
yeah,
include, again, slightly weird Church of England thing, faculties where you have to
yeah.
apply to get a change made to your building.
Yes.
So it includes that stuff. But yeah, up to 80%
Yeah.
of the time. Now that's not what they were
No.
trained for. Most of
No.
most of us clergy are not brilliant at admin anyway. You'll
Yeah.
know all too well, and they don't want to spend their time doing that. But
Yeah.
so there's a big challenge there, just
Yeah.
around how do we allow the folks who've got gifts in particular areas around preaching and pastoring, prayer, leading. How do we
Mm.
enable them to be giving more of their time to that,
Yeah.
and not get so caught up with just some of the day-to-day running of the parish
Yeah.
that that is all good stuff. It all needs to happen,
Yeah.
but they're spending a lot of their time
Yeah.
doing. So that's the second one. Um,
Yes.
and sorry, just to go back on that one. Part of that is there are just some things that, like GDPR, safeguarding,
Yeah.
um, that weren't around when I was first ordained, and it's good that they are around, but they do
Yes.
take up an enormous amount of time.
Yeah.
And I was talking to another clergy person the other day, working in a deprived, tough community,
Mm.
and a community where safeguarding is it's just a massive part of what they have to engage with.
Yeah.
And she was saying she spends 30 to 35% of her time on safeguarding cases.
Yeah. That's wild, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, that's just a
Yeah.
huge amount of time.
Yeah.
And of course, almost by definition, emotionally demanding
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
the nature of what those
Yes.
sorts of things will be.
Yeah.
So not only physically a lot of time, but emotionally
Yeah.
draining as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
or emotionally
Yeah.
demanding.
There's a burden there to carry, isn't there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there really is.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a piece as well. Another interesting one is around. Well, if we had this conversation a few years ago, I'd have said, "Oh, really, still a tough time for the gospel." But as we've just said,
Yeah.
I think we're actually in a great
Yeah.
season at the moment for the
Yeah.
gospel. So that
Yeah.
one is good. That is a change which has occurred. I think the third one I would identify is the I think there is something around resilience,
Mhm. Yeah.
longevity, mental health,
Yeah.
well-being, that sort
Yeah.
of whole piece.
Yeah.
Again, that the work we've been doing in that area has shifted very significantly in the last 10 years and up another gear, obviously,
Yeah.
COVID and post-COVID.
Yes. Yeah.
So um,
And
lots of,
there's some overlap to all of that, isn't there? Because
yes,
I'm meeting leaders who, are doing the same kind of percentage of administrative work and are not very good at it. And the church knows they're not very good at it. And they feel like a failure
yeah,
because they're in that role and they weren't trained to do it, nor do they feel like they're gifted to do it. And so there's an expectation from the church that they should be doing it.
mm,
Um, and it's demoralizing and it's really, you can see it sort of wearing them out,
yeah,
and so there's this overlap, isn't there, of mental health and resilience that links into
yeah,
all the things that you've outlined there of those three, that there is overlap, and there is some challenge on that, definitely.
yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, you chat about resilience. I know this week you were doing some mental health stuff and some healthy boundaries, wasn't it? I think seminar or something.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah,
doing a webinar on boundaries and just talking about how do you maintain healthy and appropriate
yeah,
boundaries.
yeah.
And we were talking about how, as church leaders, it's possible to be under boundaried.
Okay.
It's also possible to be over boundaried.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
how
yeah,
do you find
yeah. That middle ground.
a healthy, appropriate way
Mhm.
of engaging with boundaries, which raises huge sort of questions, really, around what's the nature of sacrifice in the Christian life?
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
how do we understand all of this in a global, historical, and biblical context?
hmm,
Because I think if we only think about mental
yeah,
well-being and particularly boundaries we were thinking about today, if you only think about that in a Western
yeah,
context,
yeah,
then we're almost certainly not going to get a really good understanding of that. We
yeah, yeah,
need
yeah,
a global context, we need a historical perspective, we need a
yeah,
biblical perspective on it.
yeah.
We were thinking about um, if you are over boundaried or under boundaried, how would you know?
Mm. Mm.
How are
Yeah,
you going to be helped to
interesting.
understand
Yeah,
that you might be being
yeah,
overbounded or underbounded?
yeah.
And we were also looking at generational difference and how maybe it's a bit of a caricature, but maybe there are some tendencies within particular generations to one or other of those
Okay.
extremes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's right.
And
Yeah,
therefore, knowing that that might be your generational tendency, how
yeah.
do you understand
Reaction.
that
Yeah,
and engage with that as well?
yeah.
Because we all know boundaries are important,
Yes.
and we probably most of us have come across under boundary church leaders,
Yeah,
and I think we may also have come across over boundary church leaders,
yeah,
and neither are a healthy or good place to
yeah,
be.
yeah,
And so it's such an important topic,
yeah.
and I don't know many church leaders who don't wrestle with it.
I think you're right, isn't it? And I often do say, just for administrative staff who are working at churches, this conversation happens again. You know, your family, your work, and your church, it all comes together in one place. And one of those areas you find a bit of challenge or tension, it affects all of them, doesn't it? And so the boundaries related to all of those things, it's really challenging. And harder than people realize, isn't it, being in ministry? I think you can forget that. And if you're listening as a church member to this podcast, you know, checking in with your leader on how they're doing, and is so important, isn't it? And reducing some of those expectations that seem to be placed upon them.
Yeah, I love the work that Marcus Honeysett has done at Living Leadership on trying to help churches get a little bit of a covenant with their church leader.
Okay, yeah.
Both how's the church leader going to care for the church
Yes.
members, and how the church members going to care for the church leader, because it needs to be a two-way thing.
Yeah.
To understand each other, understand some of the demands and pressures, and work together on a healthy environment in which to be church together with different people fulfilling different roles within it, different ministries within it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And we chatted last time. I was kind of, you know, well, I guess I was running past an idea, wasn't I, of kind of the church assistant, and we're piloting a new service that the church office is going to offer to a vicar in Norwich, and who was feeling that pressure of boundaries, who's feeling that pressure of the administrative burden, and so we as a church office going to start doing sort of 5 hours of his admin on a kind of 3-month pilot project to say, actually, can we do this remotely to serve you, to help you just get through some of these tasks? That means that you will be released to do ministry. And your feedback was very, very positive on that, James, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a genius idea. I don't know a church leader out there who wouldn't go give me 5 hours of administrative time. I'd be delighted to receive that. I think it's a great idea. And if it just... well, I also loved it because you also then went on to say that it wasn't just about doing that temporarily. It was about then trying to find appropriate people to equip in the doing of that locally. So actually, it's a long-term solution.
It's a long-term thing. I think that's what the PCC members, particularly in that church in Norwich, were saying to me. Yeah, the fact that you're willing to transfer the work back to us, and we're going to find 1 or 2 people who could do this maybe in a voluntary way, not even necessarily paid, or it gave them a chance and an opportunity to say, is this a paid role that we need in the church? And confidence for that PCC to go, yeah, no, actually it is. And so, so there has been lots of positive things. And I think we feel like a sense of, God could be calling us into that space to serve, particularly leaders who are in that space, you know. The thought of, you know, a leader doing 80% administration. I know there's probably a greater degree of administration needed in the Anglican Church in terms of the reporting than there is in some independent churches. But it's a pressure point, isn't it? So
yeah. And it's also true that there are seasons in the life of the church, and I think any church leader knows that there are times where you... I sometimes liken it to being if there's a wardrobe at your door, you're just next to the door out of your house, where you keep all your sort of coats to wear as you go out. As a leader, you go to that wardrobe, and each day you've got to work out what's the coat I need to don today. And today it might be the coat of doing some administration, because actually that's what's going to serve the people of God best in this place at this time. Tomorrow it might be I need to do some fundraising. I need to do some finance applications and stuff. The next day, I've got to get on with my sermon and work on preparation for that. So there are a range of coats, and actually there may even be seasons where you find yourself wearing a coat more often than you would like to. But the key is for it to be a season and not become permanent.
Absolutely.
That's where it becomes problematic. I think if you arrive in a church and you're spending 80% of your time doing admin, and 5 years later you're still spending 80% of your time doing admin, then I don't think that's going to be a sustainable place for you ultimately. No. I think it becomes just too demoralizing.
Yeah, absolutely right. And you hope they've kind of found some ways to change that, haven't you, in terms of staff or volunteers. And I think this is the challenge, isn't it? When you're stuck in that kind of 7-day cycle some people describe it as that kind of whirlwind, don't they?
Yeah.
It's hard to work on the system and processes and support when you're in that really busy
Yeah.
season. And we know vicars and other leaders are dealing with crisis every day. And the things that you really want to do, you don't get the opportunity to do it as
Yeah.
quickly as you might like.
Yeah.
And it is a ministry that's kind of running towards danger rather than running away,
Yes.
as my good friend Dave Harvey shares. It's interesting. So, James, fill us in then on some of the things that you've got that could serve leaders. Just thinking about your training, some of the stuff that people can link into. Fill us in on that.
Thank you. So two main ways. We run online and on site a whole bunch of different sort of training opportunities, everything from a 1 hour webinar, which is what we were doing this morning on boundaries,
Yeah.
through to a day I'm doing tomorrow for a bunch of church leaders on resilience, which is actually one of 4 days that we do on resilience over 4 terms to help people explore their resilience.
Yeah.
Through to we run a leading evangelism learning hub which is a sort of 14-month
Yeah.
come on a journey with a bunch of other churches to explore how do we make evangelism something which is core to the life of the church,
Yeah.
through to the Arrow leadership program that we run, which is an 20-month leadership development program for church ministers. So we run a whole range of different stuff,
Yeah.
trying to resource local churches in terms of our sort of training offer.
Yeah.
That's one part, and nearly all of that you can access from our website. You can find different stuff that we're offering. The other thing that we do is we try to produce resources really that will be helpful for local churches. So, for example, this one on how to nurture a faith sharing culture.
Yeah.
Is a book and a whole bunch of online resources that are all about how do we help faith sharing just to be a central norm rather than a peripheral activity for a few.
Yes. Yeah.
And what would that look like? And what do we as those in leadership need to do to nurture a culture where that becomes the case? Now, you'll know shaping culture takes time. Culture change is measured in months and years, not in days and weeks.
Yeah.
But actually, there are some things that one can do. And in this particular resource, we identify 7 core shifts that one can make, all really small, very doable things. And you're not meant to do them all at once, just do one at a time. But that actually, ultimately, over time, can lead to a significant change in the culture.
Yeah.
And then we, alongside the book, have produced loads of resources which you can access. You get a little code in the book you can access online, which give you lots of practical things to print off and share with your congregation and distribute and think about. So lots of tools, if you like.
Yeah.
And that's what we try and do with most of our resources. We try to sort of link the theory with the practice, and try and resource both sides of it as much as we can. So things like this, or our PCC Tonight resource, which does a similar thing, or our Thrive resources, which is all about multi-parish benefices. We've got a whole variety of things that we're trying to offer on a practical level.
Brilliant.
To help local churches with development in particular areas.
Yeah. Love that, James. That's really, really good. And if you're listening and you've connected with any of this, and particularly if you're in the Anglican Church, then this is a great organization to link up with. And if you're outside of that, then we can still access these resources, and certainly benefit from the experience and the gospel heartedness and gospel shaped ministry that this clearly is, and which is wonderful to kind of partner with. And you've highlighted some resources there. James, is there anything else that you guys are doing that you'd like to share on the podcast? Do you guys have any like national conferences or anything like that? Or
well, actually, at the moment, what we're just doing is we are working on a number of things for next year.
Okay.
And they're not quite finalized as yet, so I can't say too much more about
exclusives
this,
yet.
But
then.
watch this space. One of the things that we've been committed to for a good long time is a bunch of resources around growing leaders, because we recognize how important that is in the life of churches. And we're just going through a bit of a rethink about how we might offer that in the next season. The core resource that we've had came out in 2006, and it's had a number of revisions, but actually we recognize it's time for a bigger piece of work around that. But right at the heart of that is our sort of ongoing commitment to how we help local church ministers develop leadership within the life of the church
Yeah.
so that
Yeah.
others are exercising ministry and not just themselves.
Yeah.
And we are trying to think of some other um, creative ways of resourcing that really. So I'm quite excited about where things are going, but it's
Yeah.
not yet out. And it won't be till next year till some of that begins to sort of
Yeah.
hit the
It's
website.
such an important topic, and that's exciting to see that you guys are giving some time to think about this, because you know, most churches are really good at kind of raising their next elder or vicar. You know, we're very good at those kind of positions of leadership, of recruiting and doing the work and providing that. But those kind of those areas of church that require leadership right across the board, yeah, I think people are finding that whole thing, you know, that kind of leadership pipeline and how that spreads across the church
Yeah,
and raising leaders again in a particular generation. I think some of the churches that we're engaging with in that kind of 40s to 50s age group, there's a real gap of
yeah,
engagement in wanting to be a leader. And then we go down to the next generation, there are some, but it's fascinating to start to think through that. How do we raise leaders and train leaders? And all of this stuff takes time, doesn't it? And
yeah, yeah.
but it is a
It,
challenge for the church, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that's why we're sensing at the moment that would be a good investment of our time to do a bit of
Yeah.
work, more work on that area, so that
Yeah.
we can maybe help churches a little bit think about that and put in their hands. One of the things you mentioned earlier on, but we're incredibly aware that the average church leader has very little. We sometimes call it wiggle room. They have very little space that is not allocated.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, I mean, often in our training, we talk about you might be looking at 15 to 30 minutes a week.
Mm,
That might be your sum total of
mm,
space that's not allocated.
mm.
But if you use that 15 minutes well and you use it regularly,
Yeah.
it is actually quite surprising what you can do with 15 minutes a week.
Yeah.
And so part of our
Yeah.
job is to
Yeah.
both envision people for the what is possible rather than
Yeah.
depress them because they think,
Yeah.
oh, it's
Yeah.
impossible. And also then put something in their hands that is going to be helpful for them in that 15 to
Yeah.
30 minutes a week. That means that they don't have to spend time unnecessarily doing things they don't have to do, but we can do for them. That then means they
Yes.
can do what only they can do in that
Yes.
context.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's part of how we see our
Yeah.
role is,
Yeah.
can we resource, can we make it as easy as possible for people to use that 15 to 30 minutes a week in the best possible way
Yeah.
for the ministry
I love that.
in that and mission in that community.
Great. So, James, give me the website address for you guys.
Yes, thank you. cpas.org.uk. And then you'll find a whole bunch of stuff on there. And you'll find us on social media as well if you prefer to go down that route,
Yeah.
CPAS. You'll find us there as well.
Yeah, please, so please do check them out. And I want to finish on, James, on this last thing, because you've got these four kind of lovely statements that I noticed on the website, and I really connected with them. And would you just sort of finish off the podcast by just sort of sharing a little bit about those four?
Yeah, we have
That'd be
four
great.
little phrases that we use, and they really form our praying for the church
Yeah,
and also shape our work that we seek to do with churches.
yeah,
We're really praying that every church would be a pathway to faith,
yeah,
by which we mean that if somebody comes to our connect with our church, there's going to be a way by which they will go on a journey to faith,
yes, yeah,
and that we're
yeah,
reasonably clear about what that might look like and what we've got in
yeah,
place to help that happen. So every church would be a pathway to faith. We pray that every leader would be a catalyst for evangelism,
yeah,
by which we mean that we want the gospel to be shared,
yeah,
and we want leaders to have an appropriate degree of confidence in the doing of that in the world we find ourselves in today, and an ability to encourage others within the life of the church to
yeah,
be doing that.
yeah,
Every leader a catalyst for evangelism. And actually, when we were doing that one, we debated quite long and hard: catalyst for mission or a catalyst for evangelism? Well, we do believe in that big thing called mission, of which we see evangelism as sort of subset of the big thing
yeah,
called
yeah, yeah,
mission. But we actually were very specific about evangelism because, as a sort of being true to the heart of our calling, the gospel to every person's door,
yeah,
we long for people to hear and respond to the good news about Jesus.
yeah. Yeah.
And then the third one is every Christian a courageous witness.
Yeah.
And we debated long and hard that one, Gavin, about confident or courageous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we ended up not going down the confident route.
Mm.
And there were a whole bunch of reasons why we went for courageous rather than confident. One of them is that actually you can be confident and not courageous.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And therefore, actually, you end up never saying anything.
Mm.
And we also recognize that in the scriptures, generally, in those moments where we see prayers that give us insight into what Paul is praying for the church, he normally prays for boldness. That's
Yeah.
his common phrase when it's related to the ministry of evangelism. And so we felt there's an insight there which is quite important as well.
Yeah.
Lord, help us to be courageous, and we do want people to be confident as well, and we do want people to be competent as well.
Yes.
But actually, probably courage is what we need more even than
Mm.
confidence and competence.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, what God is looking for is not our ability, but our availability.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the last one is every child a chance to explore Jesus.
Yeah.
You've mentioned we know we're into third, fourth, fifth generation non-church going in our land.
Yeah.
Most young people are not brought up in any sort of Christian context at all. And as an agency that is very passionate about children and young people, and obviously running a big ministry amongst children and young people, we long for every child to have a chance to explore Jesus. And so we're doing a big piece of work around schools and churches, and how can we resource church leaders to connect better with schools and actually see schools as a great place in which to be thinking about creative ways to appropriately help children explore Jesus. And my colleague's doing a great piece of work around that. So those are our four things: every church a pathway to faith, every leader a catalyst for evangelism, every Christian a courageous witness, and every child a chance to explore Jesus. Lord, may that be so.
Amen. Yes, indeed. Yeah. James, what a joy it's been to have you on the podcast, mate. Thank you.
You're welcome. Such fun
what
to
you
be
guys
with you.
are doing, but your love and passion for the gospel is it's inspirational and it's encouraging, as we're all doing different parts of this, to help mission, to help evangelism, to help this message of the good news of Jesus go out further. And it's an exciting time to be in ministry, and a real privilege. And so thank you for stopping in your day and coming on the podcast and sharing with us. What a joy. For our listeners, please go and have a look, go and check out the website, go and see what you can link up with. There are great resources here. There are great training courses and equipping here. And then just the opportunity and the stories around the kids and the holidays, and just the opportunity to link into that. You may be in a church context where you don't have the capacity to get involved in something like this and do it yourself. But by partnering, by working together, we might be able to, make that possible. And if you're willing to get involved as a volunteer and serve in this, then that would be incredible. So please connect with James and CPAS. It'd be great. Any questions, feel free to get in contact at the church office, questions@thechurchoffice.co.uk. We would love to hear from you. If we can connect you with James and his organization in any particular way, then please do reach out to us. Mate, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And
you're welcome, Gavin. Thanks so much for all you do as well.
That's kind. That's really kind. I look forward to meeting you in person sometime. I
get
the opportunity. But really grateful for this partnership, and John Truscott, an old friend of both of ours, linking us together. And what a joy it is to work with him. So thank you for your time. All right, we'll see you next time on the podcast. Goodbye, everyone.